There's a moment when a cat stalking victim may be lulled into a sense of calm. The moment right before the pounce. The moment when the mouse pauses as if to listen to a story the cat is about to begin. And that is the moment when a split-second decision in the mouse's basal brainstem dictates its immediate and long-term futures. This moment of truth, at the point of fight or flight of no return, is where we now seem to surreally dwell, where avoiding attacks in the cat-eats-mouse world is our new norm. What can I, a middle-aged former teacher turned bud tender turned skiing town board member, do to calm the raging waters? It's Storyteller Kitty time, kids! Where we'll present social justice stories that have fallen through the cracks. Not sexy enough to be news, but that still matter. We'll have stories of resilience in spite of systemic failures, from cannabis refugees to invisible persons with disabilities to out in the open racism. To just having brain cells left at the end of the day to give a shit about social justice as our last nerves are pushed back down to the brainstem, to basic survival, like the mouse pausing for the cat to begin the tale. So join me, your host, Lisa Kunze, the Libra formerly known as Lively, out of the illegal lounge in Iowa and now legally living high in the high Rockies of Colorado. It is Storyteller Kitty Time, episode 4. I am coming to you solo for the first half of this episode from the Rocky Mountains, and this is going to be a more visual than usual episode. So please feel free, stop by that anchor.fm/STKT and find my YouTube link. It is the Storyteller Kitty channel, and we're going to rely on 4 videos that I've called out over the last 7 years. So all I'm going to do is process, sit back with a cup of decaf. I'm a vampire, I guess, during the coronavirus because it is 2020. So this will air the next to the last week of December 2020. Everybody's doing their end of the year stuff. I'm just going to kind of focus on something that has actually helped me, and that is focusing on science and learning about how to be a good consumer of science, how to vet sources, and how to understand scientific literature. So today we're going to rewind, and if you listened to episode 1, you heard the first speech that I gave at the Boston Freedom Rally in 2013. And that was called Out of the Closet. And the one you'll hear next is called Guilt and Shame or Science. So I did edit out the kerfuffle at the beginning for the audio. I'll probably show the whole video on the YouTube because this people wouldn't give up the stage. So I kind of had to, I had a little audience help. Sharon had my back, and then I just sort of had to command it with a microphone on the historic gazebo stage where they hung witches on the Boston Common. So that is the segue into a video and or audio number 1.
Hey, I'm Lisa Calvin. I came all the way from Iowa. I'm a school teacher, so I want to demand total silence before I go on, but I have a little story of guilt and shame and science to share with you. So, go back with me to 1981. I'm a freshman in college in Iowa City, Iowa. Okay, I don't know if you know much about Iowa, but stuff's illegal there. And I tried to drink beer, I tried to drink tequila, I tried to fit in, but you know what I found out? I get mean, I get nasty. I'll tell your deepest, darkest secrets to a stranger, and I'll puke on your shoes. So, I discovered cannabis in Florida on spring break in 1982, and it saved my life. At that time, it was recreation. Cannabis in Iowa comes in brick form, it's square. And, you know, I found out recently a study's been done. Here's the science to the guilt and shame I felt as I hid in the closet and smoked pot. Okay? If you smoke pot, it can reverse the brain damage that the alcohol's causing you. Let that sink in. Okay? Forward to 1992. I'm a young woman, I'm a new teacher, and I smoke pot to relieve nausea from being pregnant because a nurse friend of mine says it's okay. My baby tests positive for pot in the hospital because they test the baby's meconium or poop from 5 months gestation on. If the mother smokes pot, the baby shows up positive. So I got visited by social services where they weighed my baby and found he was thriving well. But I had guilt and shame. Today that baby would be taken away from me in Iowa. So, Dr. Melanie Dreher, meanwhile, is doing research in Jamaica showing that babies to pot mothers have better APGAR scores than to mothers who abstain. Let that sink in for a minute. That's the science that helped my guilt and shame. And by the way, I'd like to introduce you to my little pot baby, Walker.
Yeah, pot baby.
All right,
pot baby.
He's 21 now, a junior here at Emerson College in Boston, National Merit Scholar, talented musician, author, writer, great kid. So much for pot kills fucking brain cells.
Yeah.
All right. So now, 1995, I get divorced because my husband says that I'm smoking too much pot and I should go to the bars with him. We disagreed. Then, the numb years ensued. The early 2000s were for depression. I was put on antidepressants, dangerous pharmaceuticals, which I rode for 15 years under a psychiatrist's care. If one didn't work, we switched the other, and it didn't matter what happened because one medicine counteracted the next. And this was all perfectly fucking legal and paid for by my insurance company. So, meanwhile, I remarried, had another child who was not a pot baby, who is highly anxious and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder today. He's 14. I hide. The fear of incarceration continues. I also earned 2 degrees and work full-time every day for 30 years as a teacher. Sometime in 2009, I stumbled on Normal Show Live and the Russ Belville Show on the internet, where I saw a healthy, beautiful black woman taking a big, huge bong rip on camera. And Russ is talking facts and science about cannabis. Suddenly, I felt like I was at home. I went off antidepressants a year ago voluntarily. I've lost over 50 pounds and I can't sleep longer than 2 hours at a time. They not only deny that the psychotropic meds caused it, but what do they want me to do to feel better? Take more anti-fucking depressants. Fucking drug pushers. So, here we go. Transformation from guilt and shame to science. My eye doctor told me in 2011 I had glaucoma. My eye doctor has never mentioned pot, but gives me $385 a month eye drops to help. Okay, because I'm in Iowa. So, now in 2012, my school district found out about my online activism, and the lawyer said you didn't cross your First Amendment right to speak about wanting cannabis legal in Iowa. The school district was scared, so it was worth over $40,000 to them to bribe me, ask me to resign, for me not to embarrass them. All right, I got nothing to lose except my children, my freedom back in Iowa, so now I'm trying to get the hell out to a legal state. Appreciate it here, you guys. To conclude, it's not guilt and shame, it's science. Thank you, Boston.
So back to the segues. That's hard to listen to, and I mentioned that in episode 1 because that's when I was hiding in Iowa. So fast forward to, I believe it's 2016, and I have moved to Denver and moved to the high country, and I'm working in a medical shop, my third medical shop in the mountains, and Um, I had lost a lot of weight by then. I mentioned that in the video that I had started to lose 50 pounds. Was down to 80 pounds lost. So I was barely 100 pounds in the video that you're about to see. So if you're just listening, you can't. I don't mean to tease this, but I did warn you this is a visual episode. So the thing I want to process and the thing that makes me pause even more on that video is what happened right following when I walked down the stairs to side stage. And we have the beginning of it on video because I believe my son was recording at that point. And I had a young kid stop me side stage, and he was volunteering at the Boston Freedom Rally, and he shared a story of a variety of antidepressants and doctors forcing things on him in foster care, and showed me his arms that just had self-harm scars all the way up and down. And it like, right now I'm have no idea who's listening, who will listen, uh, but you never know who you'll reach and who will hear what you have to say at the right time. So I guess no matter how many people tell you to shut the fuck up, don't. So this was when I was starting to find my wings a little bit. Still thought my life was going to involve teaching of cannabis science. And here I am learning.
I'm eating. This is miraculous. Okay, so. Oh, damn it. I might not have the shot phone. I'm just out of it and nauseous for some reason today. It's like I had a great period of sleep from about midnight to 4, which is incredible for me. 4 continuous hours without really waking up in a pool of sweat and nausea and such. So I thought, yay, Fruity's calming down. And today it's like having all of the symptoms, and it sucks. But luckily I can go off site and I can consume what I chose, a little sativa dominant oil. It stimulated my appetite just enough. Of course, it's on top of the coffee, so I'm anxious as fuck. See, that's the problem. I'm learning cannabis science like everybody else and how to do this. But you know what I've learned? You trust your body. Just like I remember there are times growing up I was like, I want liver. Give me chicken liver. And it was like right before my period, or after, or what, during. It's like, what about it with cheese? I need, whatever your body needs, you crave. Or damn it, I need spinach. So it's kind of a THC. It's like, man, I just don't feel right. What do I need? And I go to something I normally don't go to stimulate my appetite more. Because I don't get the munchies. Once I do edibles, and I can't work on edibles. Because they fucker you up, or me, because I metabolize shit. So anyway, this is your under 2 minute cannabis science. Old lady in the mountains learning. Had a couple customers a day already. I learned stuff. I'm at a ballin' sales rep too. So, sorry about the seafood. Here's your product placement. Sweetgrass cookies. Medicated delight. Not as good as Love's Oven. Propel, Empire, Colorado, and Pug's hats. Peace out.
Okay, I was going to wait until the hot flash is over, but might as well go with another mention of science, and that is that my hot flashes inspired Dr. Mitch to do a study of studies of women my age using cannabis to relieve symptoms of menopause. So we'll bring that up. I'll link that with the crew. I also want to talk to the crew. So make a note of this, guys, because you're listening now, about how sativa versus indica, how it's so much more than it's awake versus into couch. I hated that as a bud tender. And a lot of the crew are former bud tenders. And I also want to discuss more about that trust your body stuff. I mean, and how do you know that unless you've read some science and understand when so many of your bud tenders aren't as educated as you're going to become once we teach you a few things. So the next segue is into video 3, which is, I love my job, but, and this is a big problem still to this day, criminal problem, I might posit.
Lisa Coonsey, here, bud tender, in a medical shop in Empire, Colorado. And it happened again. I am tired of it, and I'm calling you out on it. You, whoever you are, that can do anything about the mess. That makes me the person who, a cancer patient, 6 rounds of chemotherapy, got his medical card April. It's now almost July. He finally got up enough nerve to come into a dispensary, an older guy, because his son knows the former manager. So he got up enough guts finally to come in. He's overwhelmed. He doesn't know what to do. So he came in, and in the 20, 30 minutes we had together, I gave him as much literature, as many resources, healer.com, a local CBD company, in addition to explain to him that he can't find Phoenix Tears, because he's heard about it, in a dispensary, and what he needs to do to go about that. And why am I the person? Yeah, I have a master's degree. I'm probably more educated than more bud tenders, but it certainly isn't in cannabis science. And why isn't the medical establishment doing this right now for every cancer patient? Why? I need to know why. This is just wrong. It's more than wrong, it's criminal. I'm tired of... just fucking tired of it. I love what I do, but I shouldn't be doing this. This should not be possible.
So, hey, you or they, why? Why? Are we still in 2020 having this discussion? And I have a problem, and I think I'm going to need the Storyteller Kitty Crew to help me out, because while Cannabis Science may have relieved my guilt and shame from the 2013 speech, you know, it's still silly. Like in the videos or the audio, you can hear the traffic. It's because, you have to kind of go away. Like the local police told us to tell tourists that no, you can't blaze anywhere in public if you buy pot in Colorado, but to find state land, not federal land, and walk 2 trees in and spark up your doobie or whatever. And just make sure there's no kids around. And it's, things like that. But that's so different than full extract cannabis oil, or what people call Rick Simpson oil or Phoenix Tears. And we'll really discuss in the second half why you can't find that in a dispensary. And I want to now get to the good part, which is I got to attend. I'm going to have some visual aids. The first ever Cannabis Science Conference. Okay, it is the Cannabis Institute of Cannabis Research at the Colorado State University, Pueblo, and it was in 2017. And in one of those videos I mentioned, I had a really good conversation with a rep, and one of those conversations led me to the opportunity that you're going to hear now. Me try to speak, because more than cannabis was involved in the video, but I got to see Dr. Raphael Machulam, who is the father of THC. He discovered it in Israel, in the 70s, and has discovered, many of the cannabidiol, cannabidiol, CBD, CBN, all of those. And the part that you're not going to hear about is the conference. And You're now going to hear, and I really want you to see this because I was living in poverty and I got invited to Dr. Malik Hassan's house and lived like a damn princess for a night. And it was all because, as he said, I have a love of the plant. Special invites rock. This would be one of the main parlors in Dr. Malik Hassan's home in Pueblo, Colorado. The gold is, what's it called? Inlaid. No, plated. It's not painted. And the ceiling has, there's stories of everything. He has so much, I think it's redwood, in that he bought all the redwood in the United States. There was a shortage, and all the doors. There's 100 doors. That's me in the mirror, and I can't talk because you'll see soon. I just got home from this event. I really was very nervous because I was so lucky to be invited. Apparently the sales rep who works for Dr. Hassan, because he's started a company among many things. There's the gold leaf, and there's the scrimps and the flowers that were porcelain and oh my gosh, everything I was afraid to touch. That's a 1964 bottle of wine, of which I can't remember, and it was $20,000, I guess, and they had a couple. So we had these teeny tiny glasses that were as expensive as the wine. There was $10,000 bottles of Riesling and very delicious Pakistani food, and oh my goodness. It was a fun evening. That's the dessert right there, which was sort of a cheesecake. I didn't have my mango. I had my plain. It was lovely. There's the mayor of Glenwood, Mike, who was a pactor. There's Dr. Hassan and some other people. That's my friend Kathleen. We was sipping. I was sitting on her lap at dinner, because that's apparently what you do after dinner. And then we are in the wine cellar, and that's Dr. Hassan right there, who was very excited and said I was his favorite before he met me because of the time and the questions I asked his rep and put him to the test about the products for patients and helping people. And I guess it paid off. So here we are, dabbing.
I got about a
Magic. It's magic time. All right. So, hey, grab a dabber. Is that actually dab? Is that reclaim? Okay, there's this. Where are we, kids?
In the wonderful wine cellar.
We're in Never Never Land.
Wait. You need to say that with the wine.
We are in Never Never Land.
Cannabis rules all.
Never grow up. And here we go.
Hey.
That's the man with the keys.
Yeah, I got the keys.
All right.
The keys.
You can't get out of here.
All right.
I got the keys.
And so, are you turning it off?
Yeah, you're good. You can go.
Okay.
There's not much over here. We cleaned it off.
I know, but you know what?
You're good. You good. Slide it. Yes, slide it.
I was gonna say we probably still get it off.
It's good.
It's a lot. And what the hell's this?
I have no idea what's on there. I have no idea what's on there.
These people are wasteful. They're not from Iowa. That's awesome. Wow. That's a nice little rig. Oh shit, it's a Sheldon. I was gonna say, hold on, I know those initials. I partied with Jason Harris of JBD.
I can't even, I can't even begin to tell you.
I already know.
This would be the home of Dr. Malik Hassan, who I just, wow, dined and dabbed and wow. And we are now here with the crew to process the first half of the show. I would like you to introduce yourselves, the Storyteller Kitty Crew, starting with.
Hi, I'm Kyle.
Megan.
Rob.
Adam.
Wow, that was almost too smooth. That's the second two take that we've done because I kind of put you to sleep. We get together and we start to talk and we have a lot of fun, and then we like start to do content of the show. And these people are extremely intelligent. What you need to understand is I've learned everything I know about cannabis from these guys from ever. Kyle gave me my first dab. Kidney gave me my first bud that wasn't squished and square and like was free. And it was like an eighth of pot. And this was all at Seattle Hemp Fest. And then Rob is the first person I've ever like lived with grow and grows fine cannabis. So they can get into a lot of the nuances. And I think we're going to start with the baby that I mentioned, the 14-year-old that had PTSD. The kid's all right. Okay, he's 21. He's all right. I didn't mention that in any of the segues, and it needs to be said. So, having said that, that was my story. You guys have had your journey along the way too, because none of us were like making a living legally off of cannabis when we met, but and we've been in various stages. So, basically, why would a can of butter cookie be better than one made with distillate? Let's start there. I should have just let you go
I
right in.
mean, when
I
I had
was
my
gonna jump on
edibles
that.
company, when I had my edibles company going, distillate wasn't a thing. It was can of butter or oils to infuse. You could also use lighter things like tinctures or cooking oils, but those didn't transfer nearly as much as you really wanted to get out of the cannabis. So usually it was either adding hash oil, cold water hash, or just regular infused can of butter.
And the scientific reason for what you're asking about there is that in the cooking process, you're binding the plant product with the fat that you've used in the baking. And so you're allowing multiple channels of absorption into your body when you eat the edible.
Yeah, it needs something to bind with. You can't just eat raw hash. I mean, I guess you kind of can with its hash oil or decomboxylated hash. But if you're just talking like taking a puck of hash oil, you're kind of wasting a lot of hash, or not hash oil, cold water.
Right. A lot of people have tried to make homemade brownies and it didn't work. And it's for those science reasons that you're talking about. And so when you translate that into effect, for me, a can of butter cookie just is a better body relief. It's not a cerebral, crazy place to go. And then slowly, as like Love's Oven, I mentioned, was a Colorado company that was at every dispensary with can of butter cookies early on. And then I don't know if they're available. I haven't seen them because you can't store them for infinity. They last like 3 months shelf life. And so the good stuff now is not available in the dispensaries, and people think it's better. Well, I can't taste the hash. Well, maybe there's a reason why it was better. So that I want you guys now to start reacting on that and into the general concepts that I brought up in the videos. There was a lot.
Well, you brought up why RSO isn't, why you can't find it anywhere anymore. And you can. There are certain chains and dispensaries, and they get it, and they tend to have it from about now, Thanksgiving until Easter-ish. Because let's just be honest, we're talking about capitalism. Don't let your mind or your emotions blur medical science and having a good time and a dispensary and helping people. Don't let that cloud your business sense. It's a waste of money. Our RSO is a longer extraction and decarboxylation process than BHO or dabs. It takes a higher volume of product to achieve what you're looking for. So the equipment costs even more, especially if you're a compliant place and you're staying up with the regulations and the cleanliness.
And
Third
you
thing,
guys are both talking about California, which kind
I'm
of
talking about anywhere. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You could be in Morocco, and if you're going to follow rules and have it
Can't find it
regulated,
here in Colorado in the dispensary anymore.
I mean,
okay.
You
Well,
have to
the
know someone.
dispensary I worked for that had this was pre-California legalization. This was strictly medical. And as we know, the California medical, it was essentially the Wild West. You know, there was little to no regulation. You just hope that the testing that you were asking the vendor for was what was matching the product. You know.
Well, and you were lucky to get that. But this is my point: is that not only all of that, it's a whole plant extract. So it's not just the trim, it's not just the buds, it's all of it. You're just ripping the biggest stalks of the trunk away from it, and you're mulching everything else, and you're extracting and soaking that in a solvent to extract more than just THC and CBD. You're getting terpenes and chlorophylls and a bunch of other stuff, and that's why the stuff is black. That's why you can't see through it. It's a completely different product, and you can't sell it for too many pennies more than what you can sell a gram of regular dabbing oil for. And the people that buy RSO are sick and dying of cancer and don't have a lot of money. And so they come in and they buy it, and they take it like a pill. They take a little grain of rice every day. And everybody that buys dabs goes home and fucking fat clouds, bro, with all their homies and stuff. And the dispensary makes money. It's 100% capitalism is the only reason you don't see it anywhere. And you need to find somebody private to do it. In Oregon, they still sell it. In California, you can still find it. In Washington, you can still find it on the shelves. But it's not regular. It's
Price is a little
in
different here too. Like $3,000 for 90 days, I think is what they're talking about.
The place I used to work at, it was $750 for a 30 gram. So
1 month.
Yeah, that's the 90-day is 60 grams, because remember, you got to build your way up to the 1 gram. So and then so it was pretty much $1,500 for a solid treatment, and we did have a lot of people that had great success. I don't want to bash the program that we had, but like I say, back then it was the Wild West. We did, after I left that dispensary, I moved up to Oregon. Then all of a sudden, the people that we were getting it from, they got a batch that had a fungus infection, because you have to source so much product. Like Adam was saying, it's not something that's you can do very easy. You need to just source a ton of product and wash it.
Right, and think about this is the other part of it too, which is that I wish people would just look at it logically. You grow a plant, and it turns out that if you grow it right and you follow some science and a little bit of advice, you can cut that plant down and hang it up and let it dry, and then take some scissors or some trimming to it, and you can have a bud, marijuana bud, sensimilla, the seedless fucking compact flower at the end of it. Looks just like the crazy stuff on the cover of High Times magazine. And when you go to a dispensary, to buy 3 grams of that product costs you $50 or $60 before tax or anything else. And that's what it costs on the street, was $60 an eighth for years, for 20, 30 years before all of that.
Yeah.
And okay, so now, like I said before, now I got to do trimming, I got to do grinding, I got to buy special equipment, I got to buy extra butane, I got to get more people, I got to get rubber gloves, I got to get breathing masks, I got to get an evacuation hood so that the toxins don't fill the room and my employees are safe. I got to do all of that so I can whip up little gooey globs that are 10% the weight of that one bud. So if I put 10 grams of bud in a tube and I blast it, I'll end up with maybe 1.5 grams of oil. As a businessman, why on God's green earth would I ever do that?
No, the yield does not justify the costs, and that's true with high CBD flower like Lucy. It takes too long it's much longer, and so you can't turn it over
Pain
and
in
make
the
a
ass to
profit.
trim the CBD buds too. I'll tell you from working
Right.
at a big grow operation as well is, oh my God, the CBD stuff that we grew, I never wanted to trim.
Yeah, so what we're talking about, we're using acronyms, and so I'm gonna pause for a minute so people can like write stuff down and look it up, because RSO is Rick Simpson oil. And there are older videos, and do not follow older recipes of Rick Simpson oil because it had what in it? What was it called?
Naphtha.
Yeah,
please don't ever use that. And don't use ISO either, people. Don't trust anything that's done with naphtha or ISO.
Okay, and because this is what we're talking about is a highly concentrated, as Adam just explained, version of any other sort of concentrate that you can make an edible or you can dab. And this is something that you have to take a gram dose at a time. I mean, it messes you up. It's not a CBD oil. And that is what Phoenix Tears is, which people get confused. And that's what the gentleman was coming and asking me for, because Phoenix Tears is the Colorado Stanley brothers. And that's a whole nother story. And they were shady as well. And so you've got to be very careful about what you're looking for. That's a high CBD, like children's medicine. That's like a Charlotte's Web was the flower, and it's like a 30-to-1 CBD to THC ratio. So it's very different than a cancer medicine that knocks you out, and you have to have 3 months worth of varying doses of this heavy black oil, as Adam described. And that is why you couldn't find it anywhere in Colorado, even in a medical shop, maybe before legalization, because I started to work kind of on the cusp of rec. But I was in a medical shop. So once you make 10 milligram edibles your dose, and you max out people at 100 milligrams per unit, like in a candy bar, you can't even begin to touch the dosage that's in a vial of FICO, which is the other acronym, full extract cannabis oil. And that's the process that Adam's already explained about. It's almost as if you all know what you're talking about. So if you have cancer, don't go buy some Phoenix Tears or smoke some Charlotte's Web. That won't get to the cells that needs to be done. So that's kind of where I was. And my big problem is I still feel all that in my gut. And when I was bud tending and couldn't get over the fact that like, oh yeah, I want some of that into couch, or I'm going hiking or skiing, so I want some of that sativa so I can be awake. And I just wanted to pull my hair out because, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about, the effects you're going to achieve, the craziness is going to ensue because you don't know how to A, trust your body, or B, know what product is intended for what.
Well, I will say this. It's all marketing, and the general populace uses public slang. And the terpenes, which we now know are responsible for those feelings or what makes you sleepy, lavender makes you sleepy. So if you get an indica that's full of fucking lavender, you're going to get sleepy. If you get a sativa full of lavender or pinene, you're going to fucking go to sleep. So that's the other thing. Skunk number one. I'm old. I'm 50. So skunk number one in the 80s was something entirely different. And when you smoked skunk number one, you fucking went down. There were no human beings on the planet that fucking smoked that shit and got up and ran around and went, woohoo, sativa, I'm so full of energy. Wah! Our eyes all turned fucking bright red and we bled to death while we melted into the couch watching TV. And it was dark green, like darker than English forest leather green. It was and had red hair, and it smelled like somebody ran over a skunk. You couldn't hide it from anybody. You had to go way out in the middle of nowhere or up by Lake Tahoe or out in the woods where there was actual skunk weed. Like there's a plant that's called skunk weed that looks like cabbage that smells like skunk. You need to go somewhere over near there to smoke it and get away with it, because you just couldn't do it. But you buy skunk number 1, skunk number 4, and it's labeled as a sativa. It doesn't smell like a skunk. It fucking gets you all zippy and wide awake. And what's the difference? Well, they grew that one in a lab with fucking lab food in hydrogen pellets or vermiculite or aeroponically like I used to or whatever. And it doesn't have all of the pinene and shit from the pine forest of the Northern Triangle where it came from, to give it all of those terpenes to make it do what it used to do and smell the way that it used to smell. So you're just getting, I grew, whatever brand tomatoes at my house. Come eat them. They're just as good as the ones at the store. I'm sure they look pretty nice, but I guarantee you they're not as good as the ones at the store, because you didn't grow it the same place the store grew theirs. And that's why things taste the way they taste. And that's why we turned out, that's why weed does what it does. So anything you bought that's grown in a greenhouse or a lab somewhere is just a name. You're buying a brand. You're not buying a product unless you know exactly what terpenes you're looking for to do what you're doing for you.
Yeah, we've grossly underestimated terpenes in the mix, and you try to get the word out, and people just don't understand that you can ask for Maui Wowie, but the Maui Wowie you buy is not going to be what it felt like back in the 80s, and it's not going to be the same grower to grower, dispensary to dispensary. And then when you concentrate those things, like people are like really, unless it's full of CBN, it's hard to find a dab that does anything but make me want to clean the house. They all hit me like a sativa, because when you concentrate all that stuff and then they over process things and terpenes disappear, which is what I seem to be able to find, unfortunately, at an affordable price now. It just, the effect's not there. So uh, we could go so many places with this. I was supposed to we need to tell people how to read an article. And that's not going to be in this episode because we got about 3 or 4 minutes left here. But
Well, to a certain degree, everybody knows this, because you look at the cannabis cup, the High Times cannabis cup, you can see multiple entries of the same type of weed, but only one of them wins. And it's bubblegum number 5 by Billy Bob, not bubblegum number 5 by Ed and Jim.
Yeah.
And so you got to ask.
And I think the whole Vortex debacle, if I don't know if you remember that, but when Vortex won a cup, but it won under the name of God's vagina.
Well, you can say God's pussy here.
Yes.
That was God's pussy. I remember that name.
Yeah, there was that whole thing, and so that that was something that happened. Is people would have the same strains. Some of it would be tester strains. Some of it would just be clones that they got from their buddy. But yeah, it was multiple entries of the same stuff, and it was just whoever it hit the judges best. You just had to appeal to those judges.
Yeah, the cups, those were interesting.
Those were a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah, so it's hard. The bottom line is you got to know your grower, and you don't know your grower if you're buying medicine in a dispensary usually, and most people don't have the skills to grow 6 plants, which would be a great world if someday we all had the freedom across the country to grow at least 6 plants at a time. And then how to process it and turn it into quality anything is very difficult. And so that's, I think, the biggest problem that we have right now. And is that I still feel that there's so much science to be learned, and that it hurts me that we're still in this place. And then meanwhile, the world is legalizing and big cannabis is taking over, and it's shit. And so how do I guess I just got to give up trying to save the world, and I hope people can find out information on their own, but they won't. Some people will smoke a toke and say, oh, I don't like pot. And then the rest of their life, they won't look at any other formulation with any other terpene to help any condition as they age.
That's still part of the fantasy of the full legalization scheme of things, is that there'll be, boutique winery, high-end winery type of situations with weed. So, you'll have to travel to certain regions of the country, or, find specific distributors that have access to it, and it'll be limited and hard to find and expensive, but it'll be worth it. Otherwise, you're just going to get Marlboro and, Manischewitz or whatever they have at the grocery store.
So we're not likely to sit down and read scientific studies to get our health care. So we know that a lot of the early science was done by that boo-boo weed grown in Mississippi, was it? And so it's like
Louisiana.
Yeah, one of the sessions I went to, I actually heard a woman talk about, they did that testing and it was under 3% THC weed. They're fucking doing science on, So I know that the year after I went to this conference, Colorado funded quite a few studies, but it was 17 studies. There are, there's how much research is being done in California, and until we lift the federal ban and reschedule and all that, will we be able to do the kind of research that we need so we can get the kind of quality medicine that we need at the dosage we need at the price we need?
More in a long time.
Yeah, some states are better than other. California, it's fucking rough for pricing. Oregon's way better. Washington used to suck. They've gotten better, but they're still not as good as Oregon. I'll say that.
Was there much research in that Moores Act that passed the House?
I didn't get to read all of the stuff in the bill. I just know that it had passed.
All right. So I don't know. You guys, what do you
I'm too busy to read bills.
Yeah, as he strokes his wife's pregnant belly. Oh my God, you guys are so cute. So wrap it up. So what do you say when grandma calls you up, says, I never smoked pie, but I heard a lot of people talking about it. What should I do? Help grandma. Kyle, you go first. What do you help grandma with? Her arthritis, her aches and pains.
I mean, my dad never smoked for a long time. Still hasn't ever really taken a puff of actual weed. He's taken a little bit of vape pens here and there. He's had multiple back surgeries, shoulder replacements, all sorts of things over the years. And he mostly now likes the CBD tinctures, although he started going into ones that have a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 CBD THC ratio, also with some added terpenes, just so that he can have a little bit of additional relief, but not get the high that's really going to make him go too far, because he has taken some edibles that just pushed him way too far and not have a good time.
That's not comfortable, and that's not going to help you through the day, and you don't want to do that with your coffee. Well, although they made sugar cubes that I put in my coffee, that was great. If once your tolerance gets up, maybe you can handle 10 milligrams first thing in the morning, but a lot of people can't. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, every time I've talked to somebody that was old that asked me about it, that wanted to do it, after different attempts and different discussions, the truth always came out that they wanted to have that same experience that they had back in college or high school the first time they ever did it. And I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Other than to pick the right environment, do it while you're having a good time. Do it while you're doing something you really enjoy. Don't do a whole lot of it. Do it with friends, do it with family, do it in a safe and comfortable environment. And, just do a little bit and wait a while, see what happens. That's all.
That's good. All right, Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Go to a graveyard and do as much as possible.
And on that note, we have concluded episode 4 of Storyteller Kitty Time, the podcast for the mature, the reluctant, perhaps, cannabis consumer, or the not so reluctant. And whatever you do, do it responsibly. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That's all I needed to say. That's all we needed to say.
Here we go.
Well, humans, this has been another episode of Storyteller Kitty Time with your host Lisa Kunze and crew. We thank you for sharing your valuable time to go to uncomfortable places with us. Keep seeking the truths in the middle, carefully vet your sources, and avoid being duped by algorithms. Push that gray matter to find compassion and gratitude. But above all, do your fucking homework, kids. Kunze out.